We're here in Atlanta to drive pickup trucks because, well, that's what you do in the South. You drive pickup trucks.
I know we're all used to the big pickup test where we tow it up a difficult mountain pass and we see how much we can tow and can we pull the stump out of the front yard and how much will this do on an off-road trail. We're doing none of that.
We're here to drive them in the city for one big reason. You buy a pickup truck and this is your do-it-all car. It's the car you commute in. It's the car for everything. It's your car, but it's actually a truck.
And over the past 15, 20 years, pickups have changed a lot, being more luxurious and easier to daily. So are pickups actually an alternative to just buying a car?
You're watching Everyday Driver. We make a TV show, podcast,
and YouTube channels dedicated to great cars, driving adventures, and helping you find a car you'll love.
Subscribe and hit the bell so you don't miss a thing.
For the first half of 2018, sales data for America indicated that it was Ford, Chevy, and Ram, the trucks. These were the top 3 best-selling vehicles. So this is the F-150. It's been going strong as the #1 selling truck for over 35 years.
This Ford F-150 is the Lariat model that is right smack dab in the middle of the range. When Ford introduced this generation, they advertised a 700-pound weight savings because they'd gone to mostly aluminum body panels. But that's still nearly 5,000 pounds of total weight. It's not a lightweight by any means, it's just a little bit lighter than the other two.
We brought the Sierra SLT thanks to Hennessy, Mazda, Buick, GMC. They gave us this to bomb around Atlanta in. So what's the differentiator? Is it just materials and just styling alone?
This is a 2020 Sierra. This is a brand new one. One of the reasons we brought it, besides the fact we needed to represent some GM product, was also the fact that this has their trick new tailgate they're very excited about. They call it the Multi-Pro tailgate. You have to say it in that voice, actually. These pickups are now expensive. This GMC Sierra is the mid-grade. This is the SLT. It's right in the dead middle of the range. That one starts about $47,000. As spec'd, this is a nearly $57,000 pickup.
Do you remember in 1993 when Dodge trucks came out with a very Kenworth and semi-truck looking design? Do you remember that? Suddenly, you had a pickup truck that looked sort of like a mini semi-truck, this huge, burly thing. That's why they sold so many. That's what put them on the map, I think.
This is the Dodge Ram 1500 with the Eco Diesel, because, you know, diesel's eco. You heard that story, right?
We figured out the body on chassis thing. The truck will tow your house off its foundation now. So the differentiators are the seating position and comfort, of course, but it's styling.
This generation of the Ford F-150 has been around since 2015. Compared to the others, this is starting to feel like old styling. When you park these side by side, they're remarkably similar in size, and yet the Ford seems smaller. If you look around the cabin in this Ford F-150, it's nice, but it's not grand. However, you think about the fact that this is the middle of the model range, and this still cost over $50,000. As spec'd right here, it is nearly $52,000, and I have to say this is not a cabin that lives up to that price.
It's interesting to me that truck designers have gone really, really far in inventing new places to store things. I didn't know I needed a cubby right there, and I didn't know I needed 5 USB ports.
There's a lot of blank space between where all of the islands of buttons exist because they've made those islands of buttons to go in lots of different cars, and now they've put it in something with a ton of real estate. We were trying to come up with a name and a purpose for this wood grain applique here on the door panel, and John, who was working on the shoe with us, has nicknamed it the Wooderfall, and I think that should stick. The thing that Ford's really gotten right is these seats. This has the best seats, both front and rear, of all 3 of these trucks. Styling-wise, the Sierra is enormous. In fact, the Silverado is enormous as well, but I actually like this grille a little bit better. This feels huge, though. From every possible angle, it feels like it's 6 inches wider than the other two. It isn't, but the styling makes it seem that big.
I like that all the shapes relate, and the thing that I like the most is that it looks the toughest. It looks like the Bully, doesn't it?
Of these three trucks, this Sierra is the one that I climb in and I can instantly tell what everything does. Everything is incredibly user-friendly, it's very clear to read, it's very crisp. There's no education required in this truck. Everything you want is here, it's in plain view and you can easily grab it. This does have all the latest things as far as Apple CarPlay, Android Auto. All of that is well integrated. Everything is very legible in here. I think this is the easiest cabin to read at a glance.
The seats in the GMC are narrow. I'm wondering if it contributes to this huge interior feeling.
This center console is so large, it reminds me of the drive tunnel in the first-gen Hummer H1. The legroom in the back is astounding. I don't even think you get that much right now in a current Suburban.
You know, I wasn't too sure about the exterior styling of the Ram at first, even though these are bold, strong shapes, and it just doesn't look that way in comparison to the GMC and the Ford. The other thing going on currently is the tailgate wars.
When I was growing up in Texas, we had people with rifles still in the gun rack on the back window of their pickup. Gone are those days, but if you have a Ram, you have the Ram box in the sides of the pickup, and that's where your gun goes. If you're not a person that normally carries your rifle around, don't worry, the Ram box also doubles as a cooler. It actually has a drain plug, you can put ice in there, and you can have a party.
You know what that's solved is not only lockable storage space, but it's made the pickup bed rectangular. But it'll still get the typical 4x8 sheet of plywood, but it's finally made the pickup bed rectangular and perfect.
For $63,000, this should be the nicest truck here. Luckily, it is. We've seen the interiors on the lesser versions, and they're pretty close to this. The big difference is whether or not you got this monster 11-inch screen.
Volume control, fan speed, temperature, that stuff is primary, as is, AC recirculate button, that's very important. The Uconnect system has gotten even better because look at how big and how useful everything is.
Tons of room in the back. I do have to say that the Ford still wins on seats, even though these are pretty close. This truck is like a pickup party host. It's doing its best to provide everything you can think of to just make your day a little bit better.
I mean, trigonometry functions from your high school days are now molded into the underside of the armrest. That's astounding.
Everyday Driver is brought to you by Griot's Garage. Use the code EVERYDAY for 10% off your order.
First off, in spite of the fact that Ford is really excited about its all-aluminum construction and its EcoBoost, which means turbo, V6 engine, this does not have the EcoBoost engine. This is America. This has a V8. 5-liter V8 from Ford, and it, as a result, is the most powerful engine of these three trucks.
Almost 400 horsepower, about 400 pound-feet of torque, and it's fast. And yeah, you can get the rear end loose anytime you want. If you need to just cleanse, you can. This is also the truck that represents the 10-speed transmission that was developed jointly with GM. 8, 9, and 10 are just gas-saving overdrive gears for highway cruising. Of the two trucks with V8s, Ford and the GMC, this one has less power of the two.
355 horsepower and about 380 pound-feet of torque. That actually puts it behind the other two in torque.
It just actually leaps forward more than the Ford does. Whoa, all the stuff in the back, yeah. That was to 25 miles an hour, and this truck just feels like it wants to go.
The thing about the Sierra is all of its best dynamics are hiding down deep underneath the fact this is enormous. The initial push of the pedal, it doesn't feel powerful. Then you put your foot to the floor and it really is quite a bit of power. I'm pretty sure that this 10-speed automatic is just too many gears. I say that because not even GM's marketing department is sure what to do about this many gears. In the marketing materials, it actually says this sentence: more gears means more ratios. Yeah.
Of these three trucks, this is the only diesel. It's the 3-liter V6, but it's got a lot of torque. It suits the truck, and it's fast. It's great on highways.
Power-wise, this just feels effortless. Because of that big diesel, this Ram just works its way through traffic. It's rarely shifting up above about 1,800 RPM on that 8-speed automatic, and it's passing people. And you know, because of that 420 pounds of torque, you could tow just about anything you want. Because this is the Eco Diesel, we're going to use maybe a quarter of a tank in the entire multiple days we have this truck. When you drive a truck, you have to sacrifice the fact that you're going to have a truck-like ride. I know that sounds somewhat obvious, but this live axle and the way that these are put together for towing means that when you use it as a daily, it just has a lot of rattle, a lot of roughness. It doesn't feel smooth over bumps. All of these trucks do ride worse than a typical car, and in most cases, worse than the same company's SUVs.
The Ford is definitely the chunkiest. They want to make it feel like a truck. There's no, let it feel like a car, look at, car-like shapes or any of that inside a truck. That's kind of antithetical to what an F-150 is.
However, the Ford has succeeded as feeling the smallest of these three, and it isn't. It's about the same size, and yet when you handle this thing, when you throw it around a parking garage, anytime you have to just use it as a smaller vehicle, it feels smaller. The other two can't pull that off. The inputs on the Ford are what make it the best viable option as a pickup truck for daily. You get the sense that Ford has really listened to their buyer and found out how many people just drive these, just drive them randomly because it's Tuesday and I need to sit and stop and go. For that situation, the F-150 is the best of these three.
If you're looking for a very truck experience, the GMC is for you. It kind of beats you up, frankly. It feels like the most robust and heavy duty of all three. I guess rugged with a slight luxurious flair to it.
I understand that if you've only ever driven trucks, you're not going to be worried about the fact that this feels like a pickup in ride. It has the same kind of crashy, bumpy, bouncy ride that pickups have had kind of forever. But when you're in a world where your current SUV or sports car even actually has a ride that is far superior to this, unless you're actually towing or hauling, this is a bit brutal for a daily drive. This Sierra just requires you to think big. You're driving a battleship in a bathtub, so acknowledge how big you are and just embrace it. You want to actually move your foot over to the gas pedal and put it way down next to the floor. You want to put your foot on the brake, and when you need to brake, you better mostly bury your foot. There's a lot of effort taken to do anything. There's no small, delicate, light movements here.
I am bombing through traffic in this giant truck. It feels bigger than the other two by a wide margin, and I know it's not. That's what's crazy. But I think it's the ride quality that contributes. Ugh. Ow.
I want us to be past this step in pickups. If we're going to use them as dailies, they need to ride better than this.
From a driving perspective, the Ram absolutely rides the best. I don't know how they've done it. We were debating at first, just jumping in and driving. Did Ram put independent rear suspension on this?
This Ram doesn't have leaf springs. It's got a 5-link gas shock rear suspension. You can actually get a full air suspension in the rear. So while it still has a live rear axle, this rides better than either of the other trucks by a big margin.
Yeah, you still get a little bit of the bucking and jerking over bumps, but this is what I'm looking for in a truck. It's the spaciousness, interior, I'm entertained, it feels quality, and the ride, the comfort. I'm pretty astounded.
Yes, it still has a rough truck ride compared to a small car or even most SUVs, but it's usable.
Of all three of them, I feel like it's the Ram that is the most willing and nimble. The other two just kind of want to bash the earth out of existence. This one feels like it wants to coexist with every other car.
Ram got a recommended safety rating on this 1500, which is a first ever for the market segment. But one of the reasons it's got that is because it has every sensor you can imagine. Lane departure, blind spot warning, cross traffic alert. This beeps with a sincerity and an urgency that you've rarely ever heard. You will know something is going on. There's a lot of sensors here, even automatic braking, that will keep you safe. Now that is a great thing, especially in a big truck like this, and it is a place where Ram is leading the way.
Everyday Driver is brought to you by Covercraft. Use the code EVERYDAY for 10% off your order.
There's a lot of overlap here. That is the reality of this truck world. But the thing is, as a buyer, you typically stay in your lane. I've always bought Fords. I'm going to keep buying Fords. I feel like this is one of the market segments that deserves the most branch out among buyers. They should just keep trying the competition.
I think that in the South, when you're born, as soon as they cut the umbilical cord, your parents decide who you're going to be. You know, you're going to have the tattoo. Are you Ford, Chevy, or Ram? The comfort of a car with the ride height of this truck is very appealing.
When you're commuting, this is your personal cage. It's your throne room where you want to actually keep yourself protected and just isolated from all the madness out there. You just walk across. See, this also happens in Atlanta. Pedestrians just cross. It's honestly like driving through a herd of ducks.
I say it's worth it. I'm not trying to justify spending $63,000, but this is making a good case for it because I want to be here. And that's the point. You want to be in the pickup truck where you just want to be spending time because you're going to be here so often. Whose masochistic idea was it to spend rush hour traffic in downtown Atlanta in giant pickup trucks? Yeah, but we survived, we did it, and you'll notice that we brought the big trucks. If you want a big truck, you'll notice the Japanese trucks and other large pickup trucks aren't here. If you want a big truck, get an American truck.
This is what Americans have done well forever. It's one of the things we've done best in the world market. In fact, the F-150 has been a bestseller worldwide while only selling in the U.S. for most of its lifespan.
So every 51 seconds, a new F-150 spits out of the rear end of the factory. Same with the other trucks. The point is, there's a lot of them. You're right, people do this. But I came to this thinking, all right, put all the trim levels aside and drive them for how they are in traffic and for spending long hours like we have. And I come away really impressed with the Ram. I'm a Ford guy. I like the Ford, but I came away really liking the Ram.
I'm shocked by how much I like the Ram, honestly. I know a few people that have been long-term pickup guys that have recently bought a Ram and hadn't owned one before. And now that I've driven it, I see why, because it's very impressive. Look, I don't want to be in any of these in traffic, but if you're a truck person, my wife's a truck person. If you're a truck person, I actually think it is the best place to be and the best ride, which is the 1-2 that takes it for me. I think the Ford handles the easiest. I think it feels a little bit smaller than these other two.
I think by small amounts. The Ram was pretty impressive.
All of these are pretty close. The problem is, I really like the Sierra. It goes third for me because of that ride. There's so many things about it I like, but if we're sitting and commuting, I want to get away from the traditional jittery pickup ride, and the Sierra is still living there.
We're going to continue to look at pickup trucks, but I think trucks are, of any vehicle, the most focused on as far as they've got to have new amenities and new features and new things. They've got to keep doing things. Whereas cars, we're just about the dynamics of the cars. Whereas pickup trucks have so many uses and have to cater to so many people. They're constantly being looked at and improved and tweaked and changed that it will continue. And there's a lot of true car enthusiasts that do own pickup trucks.
Absolutely.
So it's absolutely valid. It's just we needed to drive them in a non-ranch, farm, off-road towing situation.
Everybody tows in these pickups.
Yeah, they do.
But nobody talks about the fact that you're sitting in a Starbucks line. Many people are. Many of you are. So let's acknowledge what they're for. In this case, they're not for this, but they get used for this. They're roughly the size of a small city apartment, so maybe that works too. We're just glad to have had them together.
The thing where the Ford shines is just, you can count on it. It's just going to run. It just feels like it's never going to let you down. It just has that feel to it. But it's not a place I want to spend a long time, even though you certainly can.
The F-150 ends up as a mixed bag because it's my favorite one to handle in a downtown area when spaces are tight. It's the easiest one to maneuver and just get to do what you want without feeling enormous all the time. It ends up as the best daily in the truck I least want.
This still feels like closer to old school pickup truck feel than any of them. This is the one you want for ranching, and then you might drive into the city to go to dinner once in a while.
I actually really like this Sierra. I want this to win. The problem is that ride. I love the space. I love the attitude. I don't like the ride.
The Ram. The quality of the buttons and the switches and how they feel and the amount of tech on this thing, this is far and away the winner for me, despite it not having a V8.
This has all of the big truck attitude of that GMC Sierra, but it's more livable, the ride's not as bad, and I like it more.